Hi there, Lisa here with the Instant Pot, and I wanted to show you a really quick, easy way to make your kitchery in an Instant Pot. So if you do have an Instant Pot, this is a really great way to get through the kitchery phase of your cleanse, just to make things a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. So many people tell me that they have Instant Pots and they've never used them. So I'm going to show you a couple tips on using the Instant Pot to make kitchery. So we're going to start out with our ghee and our spices. We always want to saute our spices first in the ghee because this releases the magic of the spices. This releases the medicine of the spices. So the Instant Pot has all these different settings. You can do everything in an Instant Pot. You can even bake a cake in an Instant Pot. They're so fantastic and so versatile. But tonight I'm going to use the saute uh, setting, and I'm also going to use the pressure cook setting. So I'm going to start out with the saute setting, and I'm just going to set it to high saute. And I'm going to get that started warming. So we're going to warm that up, and I'm going to add some of the ghee that the recipe calls for. So I am certainly one of those cooks who does a little of this, a little of that. I don't measure precisely. But if you read in your recipe for the kitchery and you do like to measure precisely, the measurements are there. But it does call for about 2 tablespoons of ghee. I'm going to start out with just 1 tablespoon-ish, uh, just to saute my spices with. So we'll get that going. And then I'm going to add my spices. So I am predominantly a Vata constitution, so I'm using the Vata spice blend. I keep a savory spice blend and a sweet spice blend always on hand. And I just found these great little jars and I blend my spices together and I always have them on hand. So I'm going to take my spices, and I believe it was 2 teaspoons that the recipe called for. So I'm going to just start out with 1 teaspoon because what I wanted to do is first saute my vegetables in the spices so that they get a little bit of flavor. So while that heats up, let's talk about our veggies. So the recipe is calling for zucchini. This is a nice spring vegetable that will really help with sort of thinning lymph and mucus in the body that tends to be a little thicker, tends to be a little more prominent in the springtime. And so this is a really great vegetable to use. So I'm going to use about a cup or so. I'm not going to use all of that. This was a really big zucchini, so I'm not going to use the whole thing. So I'm going to add that in with my spices. And then I'm also going to mix my vegetables of choice. And so what I chose for my kitchery tonight was asparagus. I love asparagus in the springtime. And I love that the earth gives us exactly what we need in the right season. And so this is in season right now. So I'm going to do some asparagus. And I also have carrots in here. So carrots and asparagus, that's my 2 cups of veggies. So I'm just going to toss them around to coat them so that they get all the spices on there. And I'm not really going to cook them. I'm really just flavoring them, right? I'm just getting some of the spices on there and tossing them with the ghee. And I'm also going to just add a little bit of salt. And I'm using the pink Himalayan salt. This is the best salt to use. A little less for pittas. Okay, so these are nicely coated. They've got some ghee and they've got some spices. So now I'm going to turn my Instant Pot off. There we go. And I'm going to take the vegetables back out again. So actually, it's probably easier to just do this. So I just coated them really nicely. The spices and the ghee. And then I'm going to take them out and get those last little ones out of there. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to start again. So we'll set those aside. Look how beautiful they come out. Just they get so bright as soon as you warm them a little bit. Okay, so let's take that second tablespoon of ghee and throw that into the bottom of the pot. And again, we're just going to set the saute to high and start. Okay, so there's my ghee, my tablespoon of ghee. And then I'm going to add some more spice. And so this is my second teaspoon of spice. So we'll add our spices in there. And again, wanting to just cook the spice just enough to release the flavor. You can even smell it. You can start to smell the spices come through. This is what really gives us the capacity to digest the meal. This is assisting our digestion. So as soon as you start to smell that delicious aroma of your spices, you know they're ready. And then we take our rice and mung beans. So I have my cup of rice that I've rinsed, and I'll add that. And then also my cup of mung beans that I have rinsed ahead of time. They don't want to come out. All right. So then we'll stir these in. Oops, I still have some mung beans in there. Okay. So stirring in with the spices and the ghee, again, just to coat everything. Beautiful. Okay. I'm going to add just another little bit of salt in there. Great. Okay. Then I'm going to add my ginger in with this. So calling for, I believe it was a tablespoon. Yes, a tablespoon of ginger. So I'm going to add my ginger, and I'm ready to turn that off again. So I just needed enough to bring out the spice. Okay. So we have our rice and our mung beans, and then we have our ginger in there. Ready to go. All right. So the next thing that I'm going to do then is to add my water. So 4 cups of filtered water. So I'm going to add that in with my cup of rice, my cup of mung beans. Great. Okay. Now, sometimes for a little more flavor, you could use some veggie broth instead. I just didn't have any on hand. Or you can just use the water. That works just as well. Mixing that all in, and then I'm going to go ahead and add my vegetables back in so that it all cooks together. And my vegetables back in with my kitchari. And you know, the vegetables, there's so many options. So check your list for the spring vegetable lists and just choose the vegetables that work best for you. Okay. So now we're going to go to the pressure cooker setting on the Instant Pot. So I'm going to hit pressure cook, and then I'm going to do custom. So you have different options if you're making soup, if you're making rice, all different things. I don't use the rice setting or the kitchari because I have other things in there besides just rice. If it was just rice, then I would do the rice setting. But because I have a lot of other things mixed in there, I'm going to use the custom setting, and I'm going to set this on high, and I'm going to give it, about 5 minutes. This is what I love about the Instant Pot. That's about all it takes is 5 minutes. And then I hit start, okay? So we're gonna let that come up to temperature and come up to pressure. So The Instant Pot will take probably 3 or 4 minutes to come up to pressure. Once it's pressurized, then it's going to start to cook the ingredients. Then it'll cook for the 5 minutes that we set. And then there is a sort of depressurizing phase that it'll go through naturally. So we'll let that do its thing while it starts heating up. In the meantime, I want to talk a little bit about this kitchari. Why are we using kitchari? What are the benefits of kitchari in a cleanse? So the spices, as we talked about earlier, the spices really are the sort of the medicine in the food, right? So these are the things that help your digestion to just give it a little boost, right? So the whole purpose of cleansing really is to just kind of quiet down the digestion and give it all a break, right? And make things a lot easier for the body so that the body's not working so hard to digest and process the things that we're taking in. So not only are we taking in food during our cleanse, but we're also taking in all kinds of things, experience, sound, touch, light, all these things. So while we're in this process of quieting down digestion, do your best to quiet down all the external stimuli that we experience, right? So dim your lights, spend some time in silence, in quiet each day, and allow your body to digest on all levels, right? Digesting in the mind and the experiences that we encounter in a day, right? So this is all part of cleansing. The other thing I want to talk about then is the rice and the mung beans. So basmati rice, why do we use basmati? Again, because of the ease of digestion. It's just such an easy grain to digest. You can sort of use some other things like maybe quinoa if the rice isn't holding you, if you're feeling really hungry between your meals during the cleansing phase, the active cleanse. Quinoa can work there. Some people who have blood sugar challenges, high blood sugar, things like that, can swap this out for red rice. The reason that we don't initially recommend that is because anything other than the basmati is going to be just a little bit more challenging to the digestion. And so we would just take some extra steps like soaking, if we were going to use the red rice, if we were going to use the quinoa, we would soak it overnight. We might cook it longer. We might use more liquid. The idea really is to cook everything through really fully cooked through so that none of these sort of crispy in the middle vegetables that are sort of trendy right now. We want the vegetables cooked all the way through. We want everything really easy on the digestion. So the vegetables that I chose, the recipe calls for zucchini, like we talked about. And so zucchini is such a great food in the spring. It's somewhat diuretic. It is a little bit bitter, right? And so bitter is one of those flavors that we want to use for the kapha dosha. So we use zucchini in that instance as part of our kitchari. And then the vegetables that I chose to put in my kitchari were, as I said, the asparagus, again, for the bitter flavor of it. And I love asparagus. So I put the asparagus in there. I also put carrots in my kitchari because carrots are a little more friendly to the vata dosha. And because I'm predominantly vata, that one works really well for me. It's a nice balance between a very extractive vegetable, actually two extractive vegetables between the zucchini and the asparagus. So I added some carrots to mine. Now, if you're predominantly kapha in nature, then maybe you're just going with all the greens. Maybe that works for you. Maybe spinach, maybe kale. You can't go wrong with the vegetables. You can do any combination of vegetables that you like. But again, keeping in mind that we're trying to keep it easy on the digestion. So maybe not too many vegetables, but 2 or 3, and you have a nice pot of kitchari. So another thing that you want to consider is I sauteed or lightly coated the vegetables before I started in the Instant Pot just to make it a one pot meal. But again, you're going to be eating a lot of kitchery over a few of the days in your cleanse. And so you might want to just sort of trick your body into thinking that you're having something a little bit different. So you could take those same vegetables and spread them out on a sheet pan and roast them. Make your rice and beans in your Instant Pot, and then add your roasted vegetables after it's all done. Maybe they're on the side. In this instance, I'm going to have them all in one pot, as we said. So I put them in together, and we'll just cook everything together. So we're waiting for this to come up to pressure, and you can see, maybe, yeah, you can see the lights blinking here. So this is telling me that it's almost there, and then it's going to shift into cook mode. And so we'll just wait for those 5 minutes as the rice begins to cook. And we're just about there. So we'll just give that a few minutes and then we'll check in on it. And then I'll show you how to just sort of decompress the Instant Pot. All right, so through the magic of editing, here we are. We have cooked our kitchery under pressure for 5 minutes, and then another couple of minutes for it to come to depressurize. So I'm going to go ahead and take the lid off. Be really careful when you're taking the lid off. There's still a lot of steam in there, and there's also a lot of water that accumulates on the lid. So you want to just be careful that when you open it up, you dump that water back into the pot. And then I'll set that aside. Wait. And then we'll just see how it looks. It smells delicious. You can really smell those spices in there. Really, really beautiful. Nice, bright, vibrant vegetables. And so you can finish off your kitchery with some seeds. Sunflower seeds are really nice to give it a little crunch. You can put some cilantro on top. That gives it a really nice finish as well. And you can also adjust your liquid. So if you like it a little more liquidy, a little more soupy, then you add a little more. You can take a little liquid, reduce the liquid a little bit to make it a little bit more porridgey. So it does not need to be an exact science. More important is that you're having these particular ingredients. Again, your rice and beans, that's your protein. That's a complete protein. Your vegetables, all of your fiber, all of your vitamins, minerals, all of the things that vegetables give us. And then the spices, that is the medicine, that is the digestive support. So I hope you enjoy your kitchery, and do take some pictures and show us how your kitchery is turning out. I'd love to see it. And if you have any questions at all about the Instant Pot or anything else cleanse related or related to Ayurveda, go ahead and post, and I'm happy to answer your questions right here on our Facebook group.